Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I'm definitely starting now to go off and do series, and then this will also be another series. I just did conversation with creatives, and that's ongoing, and so this series will be too, which is my director series. First person on the director series list is Hayao Miyazaki. Call it bias, call it whatever you want. But of course, if I'm gonna do a series such as this, it's good to talk about people who I consider to be my favorite directors, and also dive into probably maybe more unknown directors. Actually, I guess that would also be good, or people I don't know as much, or in that much depth, because I always think how I know directors now is by their other works, and I know how they create film, do you know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing. I think that I also want to probably, in this series, we should probably talk about directors that we also don't know much about, but are new to us. Do you know what I mean? Because it's very, very, very important. I just think that directors are very good. I mean, my newest directors, though, obviously before we get into Hayao, is my newest directors are probably Denny and Robert Edgers, and also Luca Gardino. Those are probably the three that are the newest ones for me, because I'd never really known of them before. Obviously I found out about Luca from Call Me by Your Name, and then he's doing lots of different films right now, which is why he'll probably also get a separate episode. Probably Robert will as well, and probably Denny will also. Even though I don't feel with Denny, I feel like there would have to be some kind of format or even research, because I don't think I've really watched as much of his films as the others. Obviously Denny's done he's mainly his introduction to most people, if not, yeah, most people, if not just me, his introduction to people has been the Dune films at the minute. So it would be a thing where if I was to do his episode, I'd need to go into more. I need to look at his other films, and then I could talk about them, because obviously I would watch them and then talk about them in that episode, because, do you know what I mean? It would just be helpful. But that's what I mean. I don't know him as well as I could say I know. I don't know him that well that I could say I know about the other directors, which are my favorites. I could say obviously Hayao, because I've watched mainly all of Hayao's films. In this discussion, I'll actually start off talking about how even in my previous episode, I was talking about Hayao Miyazaki a little bit. I mean, he definitely takes the number one spot for me. That's the thing. He definitely takes the cake. And it's you can't really put it into words that much. I mean, he just has a way of film, and I love that, it's the same thing that I used in my article beforehand, that what's it called? When I was writing an article about Hayao, I think I was saying something, or no, it's an article that I'm still writing, actually, no one's seen it yet. That I was saying that, yeah, they remind us that animation isn't just for children, and just because we like animation, it doesn't make us childish. It makes us it's film, and that's the bottom line. We're witnessing film rather than it being animated. And I've always thought something with Hayao's work, which he's also said, is that his subjects matter sometimes are so raw, just because they're animated. It's not even like his audience is children. And I think if I played I played Studio Gilby one time when I was working in a nursery, or was it preschool? Yeah, or it was a primary school, right? But I played it to the very young children, right? But I was you have to choose the film correctly though, because obviously some of the films have harsher subject matters than than all of them. Like I think I was playing Ponyo, and with Ponyo, it's about a girl fish. She falls in love with a boy. And actually, you could really say love. I mean, that's the thing. I always think that Hayao also showcases to us it's not always about like romantic love, and that of course he likes to what's the word? He likes to streamline like strong female characters, but he puts it as though the female characters would be fine without those interests. You know what I mean? I think that's something he does really well. Like obviously Disney or those kind of ones that will give you like obviously female main characters, they'll make it seem like, the female character is a damsel in distress and she needs that guy to like live. That she needs him to live. She needs him to save her. But none of the women that are in Hayao's films, none of them really have that trait. They're all women that can like do stuff for themselves. And they can easily take care of themselves. That's one thing that he does well. So I wouldn't even want to say that Ponyo falls in love with like I think is his name Kyouske? Yeah, I think it's Kyouske, yeah. I wouldn't want to say she falls in love with him because it's not even it's a different kind of love, and that's what he tries to like vary or tries to just like describe to us, that romantic love and also friendship love, like, do you know what I mean? Those kind of things are very important, like to make bonds with people, even aside from just finding your partner, but more so finding a connection, I mean, because I guess even with Ponyo, like she comes across Kyouske, and the reason why she's drawn to him is because he shows her kindness. And, he practically adopts her in a way. I mean, she already has a family. But, like, that's besides the point. He adopts her because, she's there on land, all by herself. She's actually a fish. She's not supposed to be on land. And he obviously takes her in. Do you know what I mean? Shows her life. And that's the main, like, push for that film. I think Ponyo's also made me sometimes think of like, obviously like Pinocchio, only because of the whole aspect of being, what's it called? Because obviously Pinocchio, right? He was a wooden boy. He turned real, and then Ponyo has that same aspect also because fish turned human girl, and that's why it's such a great film, basically. I always say to people that, like, my favourite Hayao film is Howl's Moving Castle. But the thing is, this is the thing, I feel like your favourites can change all the time. And I think, that happens, yes, out of your love with the director. And I think that it's just like, the director changes, do you know what I mean? As in, he doesn't change his way, but it's even what I think when I was watching the Boy and Heron documentary. I thought, like, Miyazaki has not changed, but this film feels different. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not like it felt different, like, oh, it was a complete, like, it was, like, stuff that, it's not stuff that Hayao would, showcase to us, because his themes, that's what I mean, his themes are always pretty much the same, right? But so it wasn't anything like that, but I just thought in this film there was something different about it and I could feel it. And then it's like also watching the documentary even more cemented that for me, because watching the documentary, I obviously won't say too much about it, but it was a thing where he worked so hard on this film, and he was backing in and out of whether he really wanted to stick with this film, but in the end he did stick with it, and he created something beautiful as he always does. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I just don't know. Like, I think to my, because that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. And even for me, like, yeah, I don't know. And I think what he's always tried to say is he does something different that Disney does. Like, do you know what I mean? They're both animated, but it's a different ballpark. And I think for me, actually, I don't like the whole conversation around comparisons anyways. Like, do you know what I mean? I think everyone always wants to make things into competitions, basically, you know? Come out like, oh yeah, this person's the greatest film director, this person's the greatest actor. And it's like, that's all well and fine, but you're all, you know, trying your hands at things. You're all, you know, practically in the same industries. It's like, it's not to say who's better. It's just, who do you like? Who do you who do you find yourself drawn to? Do you know what I mean? I think I just always found myself drawn to Miyazaki's works. I just think to myself, like, sometimes, like, even when I mentioned about how sometimes his films are more mature than others, sometimes it's like I do still go into them with that childish nature, because a lot of them have this feeling of adventure, you know. And I mean, it's not even to say you can't be adventurous as an adult. No one's saying that, because of course you can travel the world, all these things. But when you're watching Miyazaki's films, like, do you know what I mean? And then they're mostly children, and like they just make you want to travel. Like, and I think what's also always stand out to me about his films as well is the landscapes, you know, the shots. They're great. And to think they obviously put so much work into their animation is crazy. Because that was the first, the documentary of Hayao Miyazaki and the Boy and the Heron. It was the first documentary I'd ever seen of his. I know that he has more, because I think this is a thing which he usually has done in the past. He's done documentaries for his films. And I think now, after this documentary, there's an uncertainty if... but I think... No, okay, sorry. No, like, obviously, this is a spoiler, but he did say in the documentary that he probably will continue to make films, which is great. Like, that documentary actually did make me cry a little bit, because I think I was reflecting on all of his films, and I think that... yeah, I think that it made me upset. Or during the documentary, I was upset because I thought, oh, what if he retires? But then I saw it as, if he does, you know, his films will live on. Like, that's the thing. I think the thing with, like, when you're creating anything, you know, it's about that concreteness. Like, something will only be deleted if you delete it. But I meant, like, when you've created something and it's out there, it's concrete, it stays there forever. People will remember that you've done that certain thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's the same. And I was also like, oh, if whatever, ignore the back. But I was also like, if Miyazaki also decided to ever retire, yeah, I was like, it's above me. As a fan, it's above me. It literally has... I want to say it has nothing to do with me. But, like, I meant as in... that's the facts. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It's entirely up to him. And also, I think in the documentary it showed that, yeah, he's like 80... he's like 84. Like, when I realised he was 84, I was like, he's younger than my gran. He's young... well, not both of them, but he's younger than the one on my mum's side. So I was like, that's crazy. You know, I was like, he's 84 and my guy's like, you know, he's mobile. He's, you know, because he gets in his car and he drives and he walks. Like, in the documentary, like, wow, I was just like, this guy, he walks all around the place. He's still keeping his mind active. That's the main thing. Also, when I also think about that too, and I thought about he's 84, I was like, him doing animation like this, and sure, it stresses him out. It makes him want to quit. But it makes his, like, he says, I think, what's the quote I think I saw the other day? Oh, he said he's a slave to movies, right? And, even if he is, at least, his mind is always ticking because he's thinking of new movies ideas all the time. And that's the thing. And then that helps because those kind of illnesses, like memory illnesses, can't get a hold on him because he's obviously keeping his mind ticking. But then I also sometimes think, even with those illnesses, I guess even if you do keep your mind ticking, it could still happen anyway. But what I will say is, I just thought to myself when he said he was 84, he's doing good for 84, and he has not retired yet. In my head, I thought if he wanted to retire, yeah, go ahead. I was like, you're old enough. Do you know what I mean? You're old enough to have that independence to say, yes, you want to retire. Because it's great. Of course, when you think, oh, yeah, you also think to yourself, what's the best time to retire? And obviously, yeah, when you're really, really old, like, that's the best time to retire, because obviously all you want to be doing is doing what he was doing in the documentary, which is sitting out on your porch and having a cigarette. Like, do you know what I mean? Even though he should probably stop smoking, though, because I swear, because David Lynch obviously passed. R.I.P. to David Lynch, guys. He passed, but it was a thing where he had a breathing issue, but he was always smoking, right? And as we all know, like, this is the thing, like, we know that smoking kills. It's a given. So it's just like, it's a thing that, like, you obviously should not be smoking when you're an elderly person. That's one thing that you should not be doing. But I understand the hold that smoking can have on people. That's the main thing. So even with what I'm saying, I would be like, Hayao, put the cigarette down. Put it down, preserve life, make more films. But of course, it's not up to us, right? Even because, even with David Lynch passing, and he was obviously such a great director as well, it's like, you think about the fact that it's exactly what I was saying about legacy. And it's just to do with the fact that even when someone passes, their art lives on, like, do you know what I mean? And we can name so many people. Like, this is the thing. It's like, we think about death and we're like, death is not the end, because you still continue to live on, because people engage in your stuff. And, like, we all listen to people who, like, we have artists who have passed, and it doesn't change anything. Their music is still valid. It still stands, you know what I mean? It's got nothing to do with the fact that they aren't here. I can list a few, like, those people. If you want me to, I will. I mean, John Michael Basquiat, like, his art was amazing. He's obviously not alive, but his art is great. Like I was saying, David Lynch, of course. I don't know if I will discuss David Lynch in my director series, because the only reason why I would need to watch his films, of course. What I'm saying, if I was to ever do his, I would need to watch his films, and I mean, like, practically in the deep dive. I would actually have to go out of my way to watch his films. Like, I've only ever seen Dune, and I've not seen any others. So, yeah, that's the main thing. I would need to see many others. I think, like I mentioned already, that obviously I'm reading Miyazaki World, and yeah, I'm definitely in a way, I'm ingesting lots of, like, information from him, and I think that's the tell anyway. It's the tell how you guys could know that he's one of my favorite directors, like, in cinema, because I'm always on the lookout to find out more about him, find out his process, and all these things. Like, his creative process, because that even makes me think about, obviously, my conversations with creatives episode, and that makes me think about the fact that if I was ever to say to him, what is his creative process? That would be so funny, because he gets so stressed and overwhelmed, and I think, but that's probably similar to a lot of our creative processes. I mean, because you obviously go through so many different, like, drafts, or do you know what I mean? Like, you're always trying to perfect and hone in on an idea. And I think it's the same thing for him. Like when I was watching his documentary, I know that on Boy and the Heron, he was just getting what's the word? Getting so disappointed, or he was getting so furious because he just didn't feel like it was like perfect. And I think whenever he makes any of his films, yeah, he wants them to have that perfect ounce. And I think also as a creator, it makes sense for him wanting it to be that as well, because, you know, he's the boss, and if it's not what he wants it to be, obviously he's not gonna like accept it, basically. Okay, hold on, I want to move on now to like back to the favorites. So yeah, I mentioned Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle, and I've also, so far, what I mentioned Howl's Moving Castle and Ponyo. I obviously spoke about Ponyo a tiny bit because I was saying about how like how some of his films can be shown to younger audiences, but some of them can't, because I feel like some of them, for example, some of them I feel like obviously showcase like the severities of war. Like, that's mainly sometimes his main thing. And then reading the Miyazaki World book, like obviously he was faced with a lot of like war in his younger days. So it's like he showcased that in his films because, you know, it's his yeah, it's him playing out his life. I mean, Boy and the Heron was also like had, what's it called? He put himself in the shoes of Mojito. He said that he was the character Mojito, and other people in the studio, they were other characters in the film, which is lovely because I like how I think I wrote about when I finished the documentary. I was saying how the film feels like a love letter, and it feels like a love letter to people that he lost while making it, and that's what was really beautiful and grounding to me. And I think I was saying how he inspired me, because when the day that I watched his documentary, or finished it at least, I was really low, and I was like, wow, like Miyazaki pushes himself every time, even when he's not having a good time. He's like, oh, like, I'm gonna go and have a lie down, then I'll be back. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't really like give up. Sure, he like oohs and ahs about, yeah, giving up, quitting. He does all of that. Do you know what I mean? But like, people who are close to him, they know what he's like, and they know that actually him saying he's gonna quit or he's gonna retire, it's actually not true, because he loves the thrill of making films. And I think that's you know, that is the message of directors. You know, they love to create films, and that's what they do. It's what strives them. Yeah, it's what strives them, what pushes them. There's nothing else. And I think we all have that though, because like we can even feel weird. Like, we have moments of doubt and like imposter syndrome when we don't feel like we're doing enough, but most of the time we are. Do you know what I mean? Most of the time we are, and we're just too hard on ourselves. Do you know what I mean? But it's that same thing. But yeah, so okay, back to the films. So it was How I mentioned Ponyo, and then I've obviously mentioned Boy and the Heron a little bit. So yeah, I want to discuss those. But I want to talk about like some of my other favorites, like Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. Yeah, this was a film, that one in particular, it was a film I never actually really did like, but after a few rewatches or so, my outlook on it changed. Like, I saw myself in Nausicaa, because obviously she's supposed to be like, what's it called? She's supposed to be a kind of like leader and like role model, and she's also supposed to be like, she wants to preserve what's it called? Preserve animal life. Like, obviously in the scene when Nausicaa's Requiem plays, she's obviously trying to save an arm, and then and as a young girl, and so that like rawness about her didn't change. Do you know what I mean? Even when she grew up, she was still the same way, because she wanted us to, yeah, be compassionate towards animals, which I do think we should be. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I feel so bad, even when a insect or some kind of falls on me. I'm always like, when it comes on me, I'm just like, I don't want to kill you, like. And sometimes I just try to like lift it up and just like put it back on the floor. I'm like, go back to your home. Yeah, because I say I don't want to hurt you. Do you know what I mean? I think it's the same because that's sometimes the hidden themes in Miyazaki's films. It's like the idea of like, yeah, we shouldn't kill animals. Also, then another one you could say is Princess Mononoke. And like with that one, it's like the idea of like be nice to what's it called? Or like be nice to animal kind and also like the nature system. Like, you know what I mean? All those kind of stuff. Like don't cut down trees and like don't yeah, do you know what I mean? Preserve the livelihood of other inhabits that are on us, like with us in Earth, basically. And that's just yeah. I think I was having a conversation, or oh yeah, if in the previous episode, I mean, of course, in the previous episode, I was talking to my friend about yes, how Miyazaki films are a comfort, and they literally are. Like, I think the one for me that feels the most like a comfort, though, because obviously I said Howl's Moving Castle is probably number one for me. But if we were saying it wasn't, it would be Arrietty, because Arrietty just has so much like. The film is just like, it's one color and it's green. Like, do you know what I mean? And I think that's really nice. Like, you know, when you have a color theme in mind for a film, like you think to yourself, oh, what's the color theme for this film? And you just think green. Like, you know, like it's how oh, like Wes Anderson. I'll probably do a one on him at some point. But like him, you feel like when you think of Wes, you think of the color yellow, because like that's usually like his color themes in his shots. Like usually they're quite yellowy and bright, and he uses a lot of different colors. Like, do you know what I mean? Especially how, I mean, French Dispatch. He used, he used like, it was in black and white, and then it was also in color, and I think I liked that contrast. I think people, like, sometimes people don't like the fact that when someone does a film in completely black and white these days, because I don't know what the reason is for that, because I think people were like, oh, black and white was black and white, and obviously it was the whole idea of evolution and like being able to put films into color. But I still like it when films are in black and white, because it's like I wasn't alive to like witness black and white films in their glory. Like, I only watch black and white films now, and it feels like, it feels really nice to still like to watch them, and like someone, I don't know, like someone of my age, because it's not expected, because obviously it's not my generation. I came into the world seeing films in color, basically. So yeah, but I guess moving on from that, I'm just saying, like, Arrietty has that color, and it's basically green. Like, you don't really see any other color throughout that film. So and I think obviously its link for me, and like its appeal is like, yeah, nature. Like how I've always mentioned nature, and how for me as a child, like, I really love nature, and I've always thought of myself as kind of as a tree hugger. But it's like, I mean, I used to hug trees. I mean, sounds so weird. I feel like I just confessed like to all of you guys, but no, I used to just really love trees. I still love trees. And I still also love greenery. So that's literally probably why Arrietty is a standout for me. So it's like Howl's Moving Castle and Arrietty are like my basic, like, they are my number twos. Like, they are the ones that are most memorable for me. They're the ones that, like, I basically rewatch all the time. Like, I think there was a period in my life where I was watching Howl's Moving Castle or Arrietty, like, basically on the end of, like, every year. I used to do this tradition where I would watch a film going into the new year, because it's like, of course you can do that, because you wait until the 12 o'clock countdown, so it's like I would usually watch a film in that period of time. I did not do that last year for some reason, because yeah, like I for some reason I did not do that this year, because I think I was more, I mean, coming into this year, sorry, I was more focused on the idea of when it's a new year and you're having, what's it called? And you're having like junk food more so than like, more so than the idea of me watching a film. But I think I wanted to stop doing that tradition because obviously, or it's not even that I wanted to stop doing that tradition, but I feel like I need to like go onto his other films more so. I mean, we should talk about the one film that obviously like didn't grab me, like obviously, but then I feel like I can watch it, but I still do feel like it's a slow burn of a film. And I think a lot of people would agree, which is, what was it? When Marnie was there, right? When Marnie was there, and yeah, when Marnie was there, it was so weird. At first, I thought it had homoerotic like themes, but it actually didn't. Like it was when you watch the whole film, like I think in the end I thought, aren't they supposed to be related? The film's a bit like confusing, and I would say it's the only Miyazaki film that I really don't see myself like what's the word? Yeah, rewatching, because like I mentioned to you guys about rewatches, I don't really see myself what's the word? Yeah, I don't really see myself going back to those films, but I guess going back to that film in particular, but always others for sure, because it's films like Spirited Away and Kiki and Delivery Service. I've mentioned Kiki Delivery Service, or I've been talking about Kiki Delivery Service, I think, in one of my articles recently. Which has been great. I mean, because Kiki also is another really good film, and I think Kiki stands out to me in terms of like what's it called? I think it's supposed to be about going into adolescence and breaking out from teenagehood, basically, or from being a teenager to going into adolescence. So it's such a quite like striking film, and the idea of like plays on the themes of like independence and like all that kind of stuff, because obviously Kiki goes away from home on a broom to like explore her witch powers, right? Or explore being a witch, and then like she just goes on all these different adventures. And one thing actually, when I'm just away from the films a bit, one thing that always stands out to me in Studio Ghibli films is that like it's the kindness that's in them. Do you know what I mean? Like sure, like some Studio Ghibli films have like villains. That's fine. And that's to be expected, you know what I mean? The villain format is a thing that's been running on for it's been running on for decades. I don't see it ending anytime soon. And I do think it's important to have anyway, good versus bad. Good versus bad versus evil. I don't know if that's the phrase or something, but it sounds really weird, because I mean, aren't they the exact same? But no, but no, I know that like that's what I'm saying. The villain format will always live on, basically. So that's just the way that goes. But I'm saying like they still in these films have the ability to showcase kindness, and that people will be willing to help you out. Like I think that's also another thing that interests me actually about Howl's Moving Castle, to be fair, because obviously Sophie obviously gets this curse, and then she's all by herself, basically. I mean, she couldn't obviously even confide in her sister because her sister comes to see her when she gets the curse, and she can't really she can't really tell her what's happened to her, right? So she goes out and ventures out on her own. And then she's just met with all these different characters, all these different people that she finds along her journey. And I always think that's quite like important. And yes, it shows us a mirror to society and to humanity, and that like we all do this, and we all, when we're out and about places, we're gonna help people if they need it, like, oh, like, where's this place, or do you know what I mean, like all those type of things. Or even, for example, I think on times when people go on holidays and like they don't have any, they don't speak the language, they don't know where they're going, and people will help, because that's just the way of life, really. And I think it's important that Miyazaki does showcase those in his films. And that's one thing that I've always yes, liked about his films. And I've just always thought that to be a very interesting trait. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes I do think sometimes with films, like they'll show us the realistic themes of life, but sometimes it feels like they will just say to us that, like, life is evil and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just good to see. It's good to see, the balance, I suppose. But then I meant the kindness more so. Kindness and empathy, and emotion. Like, I made an example, obviously, in Kiki, But, like, I just think all of Miyazaki's films have something about them, Kiki's one, like I said, yes, is independence and, like, finding your way and, like, that kind of journey. Obviously, Howl's Moving Castle, like, that's one's a bit more, like, I don't know what you could say the one word is with that. I want to be, like, exploration, but I'm like, no. But I don't know, because I also think Sophie's Curse, I've always thought about that film, is very important as well, because she lives with that curse, but she adjusts to it so, so swimmingly, She doesn't, she has her moments of, like, sadness about it, but she still pushes through, like, she has perseverance, you know what I mean? Like, even when the scene that always stands out to me in Howl's Moving Castle, where Howl has his tantrum, and then Sophie's like, I've never felt a day in my life, and she's like, you're a wizard in this damn castle built out of metal, right? And then you wanna go and have a tantrum right now, when can't you see that I'm actually cursed to be an elderly woman, right? But the thing is, I like that they showcase that her being turned into an elderly woman, isn't as bad as we think it is. Like, so how even she carries it, it's like, it's not bad, because she still regains her youth in that. Do you know what I mean? And then, the funniest thing, of course, about Howl's Moving Castle is, yes, Howl's Moving Castle, which it is as the name, do you know what I mean? But it's not even a castle as you'd expect it to be, right? Like, it's made out of metal. Like, and it also looks like a fish of some thing. Like, no, like, it's got legs, and then it's just, and we're just like, it's funny because it almost feels metaphorical, because you're like, castle, and it's like, it's not actually a castle, because it doesn't look like that at all, and then I guess that could be to do with, like, perception and all these sorts of things, like, I'm gonna wrap this up now, because but my director's series, I'm really looking forward to it, because I have such a love for many directors in the film industry. I remember my next one was practically supposed to be Greta. It's supposed to be Greta Gerwig, because I had been drafting an article about her, like, a long time ago when I used to use Medium. So, and I never got back to it. In a way, like, sometimes when I think I have my podcast, I'm like, it saves me from having to write out things, because it's like I've already said it in speech, so why would I write it out? Do you know what I mean? That's why even when I think I said to people, oh, I wanted to do January watches in a podcast, and I was thinking no, because if I do it in a podcast episode, I'm not going to write anything. Do you know what I mean? And I think I like the format that it's in right now. I like the format that it's in, which is written, because you get more, yeah, like, I don't know. It's not to say you don't get much squeeze in speech, because you do. There's more things to say, and you don't feel like you have to be grammatically correct, like there's any restrictions on what you're saying. But like, I think I prefer the idea of of doing it in a podcast episode. But I also thought with this director series that it would be good written also, because I think when I started the Greta one, I basically was obviously just going to go through the films I've watched, and it would have been the same thing as how I've done in this episode as well. But hey, I sometimes think that, like, it's important to listen than read, if that makes sense. Because I don't know, like, do you know what I mean? And even for me as a writer, sometimes I feel like I don't make sense, and then I don't make sense speaking either. But I mean, that's up to you guys, though. You know, that's your opinion. And it's like, do you guys think I make sense? We don't know, but that's the main importance. You know what I mean? As long as it's coming across clear. And I feel like in my series, this director series, I feel like it can come across clear, you know, because it can come across pretty clear, because I obviously want to pinpoint like those directors that I like, and I kind of want to talk about their filmography just a bit, because not too long, not to chew your ear off, but I just want to focus on their films, and I want to talk about how they approach film, you know, what their grasp is on film. Even I'm really excited for the Greta one, because Greta, like, for one, Greta is a female. That's not sexist of me, but I'm just saying, like, you just think to yourself that, like, that people don't really talk about female directors all that much. Even when people used to say, oh, like, Sofia Coppola, like, she's an actress before she's a director. But no, now she's a director before she was an actress. Everyone would be like, oh, Sofia Coppola was in Godfather, and they'd be like, oh, I didn't know. But of like, yes, do you see? And I do think, I mean, as people who like wouldn't like, I don't know, creatives or whatever, like, or people who are in the film industry, like, stuff can overshadow what they've done, you know? Like, I don't really think, for me, I don't think about Sofia in film, you know? I think about, like, of her as in acting. I think about her, what's it called? Yeah, I think about her as a director, you know? And obviously what she's worked on. I don't know if I'll also do a Sofia Coppola one, because I've only seen Priscilla. This is the thing. This is what I mentioned already in this episode. It's like, with David, I've only watched Dune, and with Sophia, I've only watched Priscilla. And it's like, if we were going to focus on them, we'd want to be well known about their films, because it's like how I'm well known about Hayao's films, because I've literally watched, if not all of them, it's like, if not most, to like, if not all of them. Like, I think with Miyazaki, actually, there's some that I have not seen, and I think though those are his like early works, but I still want to watch those, to be fair, because when I was reading the biography book, I was like, there was ones mentioned that I didn't know that he had done, and it would be interesting to see his early career. So but it's the same. So like I was saying, I meant about, you know, guys, this is the thing. You guys will always realize whenever I do podcasts that it's not even like I have a one-track mind. I go ... like I go I space out in different areas and then I make my way back to my main point. It's really funny. But like, what's it called? No, like I was saying about, yeah, like doing these series, I want to be well known about the director I'm talking about, basically. You know, I don't want to just zoom in on one film, which I mean myself, of course, I could if I wanted to. This is my podcast, but hey, I just think it's better when you talk about a subject topic, you want to be well known about it rather than like not well known, you know. So like with Greta, I think I've seen like three, yeah, like maybe three or something of her films. I'll have to check in my article actually. And then also I do need to like maybe before I do the episode I want to watch Frances Ha as well. So yeah. But thank you so much for listening and can't wait to see you in the next episode, which will be about Greta Gerwig.